Hello, today we are going to talk about supply in lesson 1.05. First of all, we're going to talk about what supply is. All right, supply is the different amounts of a good that sellers are willing and able to sell or produce at different prices. Law of supply states that there's a direct or positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. Okay, so what does that mean? All right, that means as the price of something increases, the quantity producers are willing to make will increase. And as the price falls, the opposite will be true. They'll be willing to produce less. Now, this is true because at higher prices, profit-seeking businesses have an incentive to produce more of something. We're going to look at an example here on the next slide. So for our example, we're going to look at mowing lawns. All right, so let's say you own a lawnmower and you're willing to mow lawns, and this is like your business. So now you're the seller. So when you think about supply, it often helps if you put yourself into the mindset of the seller of the product that you're looking at. How many lawns would you be willing to mow at these prices? All right, so here we have a supply schedule, and we have some prices here, $1, $5, $20. So for $1, would you be willing to mow very many lawns? I'm guessing probably not. For $5, maybe a little more. All right, maybe more than zero. Like for $1, you might be willing to mow 0 lawns. 50, 100, what about 1,000? I think it's pretty obvious that at these higher prices, you'd be willing to mow more and more lawns. In fact, if I could get $100 or $1,000 for mowing someone's lawn, I'd probably quit my job at FLVS and do that full time. I'd certainly make a lot more money. All right, so you can take that supply schedule. Here we have a little bit different one. Here we have one for cereal. And all you have to do is plot the price and quantity. All right, you should have learned in lesson 104 that the price always goes on the vertical axis and the quantity always goes on the horizontal axis, just like it did for demand. All right, and you can plot these points. So you have at $1 we have 10, $2, 20, and so on. And when you put all those points together, you get a graph that looks something like this. All right, so what happens if the price changes? We're going to first, okay? We call that a change in the quantity supplied. If there's a change in the price, there's going to be movement along this existing curve that we have already drawn here, and we call that a change in the quantity supplied. So if the price goes from, say, $3 up to $4, you would move from this point at $3.30 units of cereal sold up to $4.40 units of cereal. This would be how much that the cereal company would be willing to sell at these different prices, remember. All right, now, what if new companies start making cereal? In other words, what if something other than the price changes that changes the supply of cereal? All right, in this case, we're going to call that a change in supply because the whole supply curve is going to shift. All right, so there's a difference between a change in quantity supplied and a change in supply. So even though they sound similar, they're not the same. So a change in supply is caused by something other than price. All right, so here, if there's more companies supplying cereal, at every price, there's going to be more cereal supplied, and that graph is going to shift out to the right, showing an increase. Okay, so just like demand, right is an increase and left is a decrease when you're doing shifts. Okay, for supply, right is an increase and left is a decrease. Increase in supply. Prices didn't change, but there's more cereal produced. What if a drought destroys corn and wheat crops, in which corn and wheat are big inputs into cereal? Those are materials that you need to make cereal. In this case, it would be a supply, and it would shift to the left. Prices didn't change, but there's less cereal produced, so there's a change in supply. Once again, a shift in the. What if cereal companies find a quicker way to make cereal? All right. What would you think would happen to the supply curve then? All right, there's six things that can shift supply. All right, in the lesson they call these ROTTEN, R-O-T-T-E-N. So the first one's resource costs and availability. If resources are more available or cheaper, supply is going to increase. Second one is opportunity cost of producing other goods. So maybe Kellogg's can produce cereal or Pop-Tarts. And if Pop-Tarts become more popular and they can make more profit selling Pop-Tarts, they might shift their production to Pop-Tarts and produce less cereal. That would shift the supply curve. Okay, this one doesn't happen that often, but it's possible. Taxes, subsidies, and government regulation. If the producer or seller is taxed, that's going to decrease supply. If they get a subsidy, which is basically where the government gives them money, that's going to increase supply. Technology or productivity. Better technology, more productivity. If they have better new machines or better machines to produce the cereal faster, that's going to increase supply. It's going to shift it to the right. Expectations of the producer. This is what they think is going to happen in the future. Okay, if they anticipate a high demand in the future, they can increase supply now to meet that anticipated high demand in the future. And finally, number of firms in the industry, and we did an example of that. More firms means more supply. It increases the supply curve to the right. Remember, changes in price don't shift the curve. It only causes movement along. So a change in price causes a movement along. That's a change in the quantity supplied. And a change in one of these 6 things causes a shift. Notice they're all things that directly affect the seller. A change in demand cannot cause a change in supply. That's key.